I used to believe that the quiet places in life were the safest, the spaces where the world slowed down long enough for you to breathe. But everything I'm about to tell you changed that forever. Because sometimes, the places that seem harmless in the daylight carry a different kind of silence after dark. A silence that watches you, listens to you, and follows you, even when you try convincing yourself it isn't there. And it all began during a week where I had been working far too many late shifts, staying longer than usual in the small, aging office building where I handled paperwork for a company so unremarkable it didn't even put its name on the front door. The kind of place where you could spend hours without seeing anyone, and the hallways felt like abandoned tunnels once the sun disappeared. And on one of those nights, I remember glancing at the hallway security monitor while gathering my things and noticing something small, almost insignificant at first. A faint movement at the far end of the corridor, even though no one else was scheduled to be there. But I dismissed it as a glitch from the old camera system because the entire building was full of unexplained noises and flickers no one bothered to fix. Yet when I stepped into the hallway to leave, I felt a slow draft drift past me, even though every window was sealed and the air conditioner had already shut off. And the feeling wasn't cold, exactly, just strange, like stepping into a space someone had stood in seconds earlier, a subtle pressure in the air that made my skin tighten. And as I walked down the dim hallway toward the elevator, listening to the soft hum of the lights overhead, I heard a faint shuffle behind me, the kind that makes your instincts snap to attention, even though you know logic says nothing should be there. But when I turned, the hallway was empty, still as stone. And for a moment I just stared down the corridor, sensing something I couldn't see but could somehow feel, like the air itself was paying attention. So I pressed the elevator button and waited, trying to ignore the growing sense that something unseen was lingering just out of view. And when the elevator finally arrived with a gentle chime, I hesitated because the interior lights flickered in a strange, rhythmic pattern I'd never seen before, almost like they were responding to something I couldn't hear. But I stepped inside anyway and pressed the ground floor, wanting nothing more than to get home and shake off the tension that had been building inside me all week. Yet halfway down the elevator shuddered, a subtle tremor that made the walls feel too close. And when the doors opened to the lobby, I walked quickly through the glass doors and into the empty parking lot where my car sat beneath a flickering streetlight. But as I approached it, the light steadied itself suddenly, glowing with an unnerving stillness, and the whole parking lot seemed to settle into a deep quiet that made even my footsteps echo a little too loudly. So I unlocked my car and got in, glancing back at the dark windows of the building, and I swear I saw the faint outline of someone standing in the hallway where I had been moments earlier, even though the building was locked to everyone else. But I drove off and convinced myself it was a reflection or the lingering effects of exhaustion. Yet over the next several evenings, things grew stranger in ways I couldn't ignore. Because every night when I stayed late, I started noticing subtle changes, like faint footsteps echoing in the stairwell when the cameras showed nothing, or finding my office chair nudged at a slight angle, even though I always left it pushed in. And one night when I returned from the break room with a cup of coffee, I found the monitor on my desk open to a camera feed I had never selected, a grainy view of an empty hallway lit by a single flickering light. But the longer I looked at the screen, the more I felt like something was standing just out of frame, waiting for the camera to drift an inch to the side, waiting for me to notice it. And I quickly closed the feed and tried to focus on my work, even though the building felt like it had shifted, like the walls were breathing along with me, every small creak of the structure sounding too timed, too intentional. And on my final night there, the night that convinced me to quit, I was finishing up paperwork when the overhead lights dimmed briefly. Not a blackout, but a slow fade, as if something large had passed beneath them, something close enough to brush against the air around me. And when they brightened again, I heard a soft sound behind me, Not a footstep, but a gentle exhale, close enough that I could feel the faintest warmth stir near my ear, and I didn't turn around, didn't move a muscle. I just reached slowly for my keys, stood up, and walked out of the office without looking back. Because in that moment I realized the building wasn't empty. It had never been empty. Something had been learning me, studying me, following the rhythm of my routine, and the moment I stepped outside, the night felt normal again, the world settling back into something familiar, and I didn't waste a second. I never went back. And even now, long after quitting, I still catch myself glancing down dim hallways or hesitating before stepping into silent elevators, because once you feel the presence of something that watches from the unseen corners of places everyone else ignores, you never walk through quiet buildings the same way again. I used to think public transportation was predictable, almost comforting in its routine, until the night I found myself waiting alone at a bus stop far later than I intended. Sitting beneath a flickering street lamp that buzzed softly like it was struggling to stay awake, and the entire street around me felt strangely hollow, as if the city itself had gone to sleep and forgotten to tell me. And after checking my phone for the 10th time, I finally heard the low rumble of the approaching bus echoing through the quiet night air. But what struck me as odd was how slowly it moved, gliding toward the stop with an unnatural smoothness, almost like it wasn't touching the road at all. And when it pulled up, the doors opened without the usual hiss of air, revealing an interior that was dimmer than it should have been, the overhead lights flickering in long, uneven pulses. But the driver didn't say a word, didn't even glance in my direction. Just stared straight ahead at the empty road as if he were deep inside some distant thought, and I stepped on cautiously, noticing immediately that the bus felt colder than the outside air, a still, stagnant cold that seemed to cling to the seats. And even though I expected other passengers, the entire bus was empty, completely silent except for the faint hum of the engine. So I sat halfway down the aisle and stared out the window, watching the city drift by in a blur of dim streetlights and shadowed buildings, until I realized something unsettling. The route the bus was taking wasn't the one I recognized. The turns were slightly off. The streets seemed narrower, the intersections unfamiliar, yet everything still looked just close enough to normal that I kept second-guessing myself, and I leaned forward slightly, trying to call out to the driver, but before I could speak, I noticed the reflection in the bus window. Not my own, but something behind me. Something faint and motionless, standing near the very back row, too still to be a person simply shifting in their seat. But when I turned around, the back of the bus was empty. Nothing there except rows of seats that seemed a little darker than they should have been. So I faced forward again, heart picking up speed as I tried to convince myself it was just the lighting, just my eyes playing tricks on me. But then the bus turned down a narrow street I had never seen before. A long, empty stretch lined with tightly packed buildings that looked abandoned, their windows dark, their walls casting shadows that seemed to lean toward the road. And for the first time, the driver moved, not turning to look at me, but raising his hand slightly, as if signaling to someone or something outside the bus. And the moment his hand lowered, the lights flickered sharply, plunging the interior into momentary darkness. And in that split second, before the lights returned, I saw a silhouette sitting in the seat behind me, closer than before, unmoving but undeniably present. And when the lights stabilized, the seat was empty again, but the air felt heavier, thicker, as if someone had just walked past me. So without thinking, I reached up and pulled the cord, wanting desperately to get off. And the bus slowed, not at a stop, not anywhere familiar, but in the middle of that silent, narrow street. And when the doors opened, I didn't wait to question anything. I stepped out into the cool night air and started walking quickly in the opposite direction, not glancing back even once. And after a few steps, I heard the bus doors close behind me, followed by the low rumble of the engine fading into the distance. And by the time I finally found my way back to a familiar street, the sky had begun to lighten and the world felt normal again. But from that night on, I refused to take any bus after dark, because whatever rode behind me that night, whatever sat in that back row watching me between the flickers of the lights, I could feel it wasn't meant to be seen. And sometimes the places we think are the most ordinary become the ones that stay with us the longest in the quiet hours when the world forgets to feel real.